So I've been trying to film this vlog all day, and it's been one frustrating task to try and do, and let me explain why. So Fridays, my two boys are normally at school, and my wife takes my little girl to swimming lessons in the morning for a couple of hours, so I thought now's the time to film a vlog to get posted for this weekend. And I just couldn't do it. I was absolutely shattered, and it's probably because I didn't have a very good night's sleep last night. We've got this storm that's either hit or hitting the UK, and it's got some mad speed winds that are causing a lot of damage across the country. We haven't really had it too bad here, but the winds last night were unreal. And I spent all day trying to film something for the channel. And I had so many plans to want to try and create a really informational video about the frustrations that I experience living with MND. And I just couldn't get the energy to do it. And I suppose that's one of the frustrations that I'm experiencing with this condition is tiredness and fatigue. It's something that is becoming more and more apparent as my condition progresses. So I wanted to share with you some of the frustrations that I experience, and they are very mundane, and you're probably going to look at it and go, how are you getting frustrated over that? But here's the thing. I am currently struggling with the use of my arms and my hands. I can't use my left hand at all, really. I've got very little strength in my wrist, so I can't even lift my wrist. If you look at my right hand, I can just about lift my wrist. With this one, I can't. And I can't open my hands out fully. And when I'm tired or fatigued from having a bad night's sleep, these symptoms, to name just a few, are heightened, and they become worse and they feel weaker. I get muscle twitches and fasciculations across my whole body, and they are very much more apparent. And I just have to listen to my body and rest and try and recover. In terms of the frustrations that I experience with this condition, this whole video has come about from a question that I had on my Instagram probably a good month ago. And I've yet to sort of touch on it because it's quite a broad question, and there's loads of frustrations that I feel living with this condition, from the physical side of things to the mental side of things, and just a couple of points that I've already brought up, from tiredness and lack of sleep. So I suppose making sure that I have a good night's sleep is something that I try and do as much as I can. Being a dad to 3 young children, that is tough, and especially with my little girl Rosie, who seems to feel the need to come into me and my wife's bed every single night for the last couple of years and kick me out. So I end up in her bed most nights, because I know that if I try and stay in my bed, which I sort of stupidly did last night, and I know that's really horrible to say, because you probably think, well, cherish the moments and the memories of your little girl sleeping in your bed, but she is more of a fidget than I am. She kicks me and wants to pretend to draw on my back, play with my nose, put her fingers in my ears. So I end up going into her bedroom to get as good a night's sleep as I can do, because otherwise I'll feel like I am today, where I'm completely exhausted and wiped out, where I can't find the energy to do anything. So I suppose if you're watching this and you're going through a similar thing, my first tip, if you start to feel tired with MND, is make sure you get enough rest. if you've got the option to have a nap in the day, take that nap, have a little siesta. But for me, I can't do that, so I've got to make sure that I have as best night's sleep as I can do to make sure that I feel as refreshed as I can the next day, because I use a heck of a lot more calories and energy because of the muscles that are becoming weaker. I'm then having to use other muscles within my body to compensate that weakness, which then uses more energy and more calories. So yeah, rest is best. Rest is best. Now on to some of the other frustrations that I experience. And like I said earlier, these are probably very mundane and simple tasks that myself used to take for granted before motor neuron disease. And you probably do without even thinking about it each day. And I want to show you one of them straight away, which is getting myself another drink. It's Friday night, so I'm having a couple of drinks. And if you follow me on my Instagram, you probably know already that I do like to enjoy a couple of drinks at the weekend. So let's go and get a little top up, and I'll show you the frustrations in just doing such a simple task like that. Okay, so my poison of choice for this weekend is a bit of Southern Comfort and lemonade. Where's my glass gone? Where have I put it? I found it. Okay, so the frustrations that I experience, and this goes hand in hand, excuse the pun, because I can't use my hands. So I've had to try and adapt and use other parts of my body to try and open things like a lid. My dentist is going to hate me, hang on. Okay. All right, tell me when. Oh, that would do. Jesus. I better sleep well tonight. Oh, my God. Okay, I'm not going to bother with my hands. Oh my God, it's so annoying. Right. I've got to almost stand on my toes to try and get enough leverage to bring it up. Here we go. Right. The trick is not to spill any. Ugh. Oh my God. Cramp in my neck. Oh. 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 Okay. All right. Drink done. So what I found is using my two good fingers on my right hand to actually do the lid up. So I almost sort of like grip it and I can turn it so it doesn't go flat. There we go. Because I've lost the strength in sort of like my pincer movement. So the muscles sort of in the thumb area, I've lost the strength, so I can't grab anything. So you can probably see a little bit of what's called muscle atrophy in this sort of area. I can't even point to it. Actually on this one, sort of around here. Anyway, let's put this away and cut to me back at the sofa. Actually, let's put it on here. Oh, okay. Right, where were we? Oh. Right, drink acquired. I have to use a straw for most of my drinks now because I've lost the ability to bring up anything towards my mouth. So it's just easier to have it through a straw. And before you ask, no, it doesn't get you drunk quicker. It probably does worse things like rot your teeth quicker, but adapt and thrive, adapt and thrive. So what else frustrates me living with motor neuron disease? There is a huge list that I could talk about and probably too many to put into a video. And I want to touch on the main ones that I feel that really get under my skin and frustrate me the most. So to summarise, we've talked about tiredness and fatigue and making sure you have a good night's sleep, and the frustrations of being a parent with young children, interrupting the good night's sleep, and the consequences of feeling tired throughout the day. We've looked at making things like a simple drink. It takes a huge amount of energy to do things like that. And like I said earlier, I'm using other muscle groups and body parts to actually complete the task or the movement to try and open a bottle, pour the drink, pick up the glass. So it's really, really frustrating that I've got to this point now, and I feel very lucky that I'm still only at this position and I'm able to still have some form of independence. And I suppose that's the next point I want to bring up, is that it's really frustrating that the nature of motor neuron disease is slowly taking away my independence. I don't know when it will happen, but I'm sure in maybe a year, it could be less, maybe a year to 18 months time, I could try and replicate this same video and I won't be able to do what I've just done and make myself a drink. I'm going to have to rely on others. And that is another frustrating point of this ridiculous disease, is having to rely on others, which sounds easier said than done. But when you're a very independent person like myself, I'm annoyingly independent. I want to try and do everything myself. I'm very impatient, and if I want to try and do something, I will give it a go myself. If we buy something from, let's say, we buy some flat pack furniture from IKEA, I'm the type of person that will throw away the instructions and try and put it together myself. And if I get it wrong, then I'll look at the instructions. So that's what I'm trying to deal with up here. And living with MND is taking away that ability to be able to do things like that. And it is so frustrating. It really is frustrating. And I can't put it into words how frustrating it is. It's just really annoying. But yeah, where do we go from here? I mean, adapting to this new way of life is the biggest challenge. And I suppose the way that my MND is progressing in, fortunately, a slower progressing state compared to many, many others. I'm able to find other ways to get things done, like make myself a drink and utilize other body parts that haven't been affected by MND. So yeah, it is very frustrating, and I've not even scratched the surface on other things. So give you a quick fire idea of what else is really annoying that I can no longer do with motor neuron disease. Having a shower is becoming very taxing. You know, I cannot use my arms the way I used to. So simply washing your face, I can't get the little scrunchy things that most people have in the shower to your face. So I'm having to bring my face to my hand. I almost need one of those, like, you know, those things that you get in farms where the cows or the horses rub themselves up against, like a spinning brush that you attach to the wall. That's why I almost need, like, a car wash. I need a human car wash. That's what I need. And I can just walk in and just like rub my face all around it. So that would be good. Maybe I need to invent that. Yeah, so having a shower, then getting dressed. It's just, I mean, the whole process of waking up in the morning. Luckily, my wife makes me a banging cup of coffee in the morning, so I don't have to worry about doing that. But I'd love to be able to do it myself. I'd love to be able to get up early and bring her a coffee like I used to do before I went to work. But I'm now having to make sure I have enough sleep, and luckily I've got a nice coffee waiting for me in the morning. But then it's having to drink that coffee. I mean, let me just show you. Just as an example with this drink. Oh, I'm gonna have to stand up. Oh. I'm gonna spill it now, aren't I? Oh. So at the moment, normally, I'll just have a little drink. But if I was to try and drink this normally, this is dodgy. I'm gonna spill it. So I can't even grab it. So I'd love to be able to just pick it up with one hand, but I can't even do that. So I have to use two hands to give it some sort of stability. Oh. There we go, right. So I reckon I could give it a bit of a sip, but just that whole process has taken a huge amount of effort and energy. But I've got a cramp in my neck again. Oh, that's a new thing. Oh, I'm going to stick to the straw. I'll just leave it there for now. So yeah, MND is bloody frustrating, and it's stripping away any form of independence. You know, I'm sat here on my own while my wife is putting my kids to bed, and just trying to feel human and feel normal is becoming more and more difficult to me. I just can't even put it into words. It is infuriating, the things that I can no longer do. But what I try and focus on, and this is something that a friend of mine with MND told me a couple of years ago, is try and focus on the things that you can do, not what you can't. Because I think if I kept moaning and whinging on about the things that I can no longer do, it's only going to make you feel more and more negative about living with this condition. And it's easy to be negative living with a motor neuron disease because there is no real positive to living with motor neuron disease. But I try and keep myself in a positive sort of mindset because I suppose the easiest way to describe it, and I can only really say this because I have MND, and I hear this from a number of people that are also unfortunately living with MND, is you have to laugh about it. you have to find the funny side of things with this terminal illness, because if you don't, you're just going to dig yourself into a deeper and deeper black hole and not enjoy whatever life you have left to live with motor neuron disease. I'll drink to that. Oh no, I've spilled some. Oh, balls. Okay, let's do that again. Cheers. Oh no. Oh. Okay, on to my last point about what frustration means to me living with this condition. And it's something that is the most frustrating because I am out of control of doing anything about it. And what I mean by that is I can try and adapt to make myself a drink. I can adapt to being able to use other muscles that aren't affected with motor neuron disease to get dressed, play with my kids, try and give them a hug. And this last point of frustration is completely out of my control, and that is the lack of treatment, or dare I say a cure, that we have yet to find for motor neuron disease. Now, a bit of a backstory for you. When I was diagnosed with motor neuron disease back in June 2021, I was offered, as most people will be offered when they get diagnosed, is a drug called riluzole. Now, for those that don't know, riluzole has been around for, I believe, around 30 years. And that's 30 years with no real advancements of drug to help people living with motor neuron disease. Don't get me wrong, there has been a drug that has been recently trialled and released to help people with a genetic mutation called SOD1. And SOD1 affects around 2% of the population of people here in the UK living with motor neuron disease. The other 98% of people, like myself, only have riluzole. And from what I was told from my neurologist, riluzole is meant to add an additional 3 to 6 months of life expectancy to people living with this condition. Some people say that it will add more, but based on what my neurologist has told me, it's around 3 to 6 months. Now, when I was prescribed this drug, riluzole, immediately within about a few days, I experienced really bad side effects from taking it. And those side effects were extreme fatigue. My symptoms felt worse, and they felt like they were getting worse quicker. I felt weaker as well. And that was before I could not do the things that I can't do now. So I did speak to my neurologist around a year later after trying riluzole and experiencing these side effects, thinking, oh, it's just my body getting used to it. And he agreed that the pros of riluzole didn't outweigh the side effects and the cons that I was experiencing. So I am not taking any form of treatment medically now. And that is really frustrating that there isn't anything else out there at the moment to help someone like myself either slow down progression or, dare I say, cure it. I mean, I'll be happy with a form of treatment that will just stop progression in its tracks, and I'll live with what I'm experiencing now. I'm more than happy with that, but there's nothing out there. That's not to say that it's not around the corner. Will it be in my lifetime? I'm not too sure. The way that treatment is being trialled and the money that's being raised to go towards research has been, I think, the most it has ever been in probably the last decade. And that's down to people like Rob Burrow, Kevin Sinfield, and many, many others that have put motor neuron disease in the forefront of people's minds to encourage people to donate to charities such as the Motor Neuron Disease Association and many others that are fighting our corner to find a treatment, or dare I say a cure for this disease. So yeah, it is very frustrating, and I suppose your takeaway from this all is whatever you're going through, whether it's a terminal illness like motor neuron disease or anything else, is to try and stay as positive as you can be. As easy as well, it's not as easier said than done, is it? Well, it is. It is easier said than done. But over the last 3.5 years since I was diagnosed, I've felt that being positive and adapting to my new way of life is unfortunately the only type of medication that is available, but is probably the best type of medication that I've felt that has helped me get to where I am today. Okay, let me just clean this mess up and I will give you a bit of a progress update and answer a couple of questions that have come through on social media. There we go. Happy wife, happy life. Right, progression update for you. Not much has changed, or anything has changed since last week in terms of my hands and arms, but just for my benefit to keep a record, I can't open my arms up to the side any further, and then to the front no further than that. Shoulder wise, I feel a little bit of a restriction on my left side, which is probably normal because that's where my symptoms started, which is on my left. But shrugging my shoulders, that's about as high as I can go there. Now I do have another symptom that is becoming more and more apparent, which I want to show you right now, and that's in my neck. So over the last, I would say 6 months, I have noticed, since I last saw my neurologist, which was back in July last year, and what I realised was I was getting slight neck sort of weakness, or my head was feeling slightly odd, slightly heavy. And when I went to see my neurologist, he did like a neck test on me, which he basically put the palm of his hand on my forehead and I had to push against him. And it was noted that I had some slight weakness in the neck. But since then, I've noticed fasciculations, aka twitches, around my sort of side of my neck and my traps. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see them on the camera, but around sort of my traps area, it sort of twitches. You probably can't see it, but I'm noticing more and more that I'm getting like MND symptoms that I have experienced in my arms, in my neck. And I think the way that my progression sort of manifests is that the twitching starts first and then weakness then kicks in afterwards. And it's something that's quite hard to admit, that something like your neck is then going to become weaker. I can sort of manage mentally with my arms, but to have your neck get weaker, it's quite scary. So I'll have to keep you updated on that. I've got a neurology appointment on the 3rd of February, which will probably get confirmed whether the weakness has got worse or, you know, I'll keep you updated. I'm probably going to bring you along to that appointment anyway, so you'll be able to see what, hopefully, if he allows me to record, I'll be able to show you what he does in sort of a checkup appointment. And I'm also doing a breathing test, which will then sort of show if my lungs or my diaphragm is being affected by motor neuron disease. That's the thing. I don't think people realise. People see sort of what they can see physically, but it's the stuff inside that gets affected as well. And you're talking like your lungs, you know, everything that's a muscle. So your lungs, your diaphragm, your tongue, the muscles you use to swallow, your heart, everything's a muscle and will get affected by motor neuron disease. Yeah, scary. But there's your progression update for this week. On to a couple of questions that have come through. Okay, question 1 is, how do you manage at work? What do you do, and are your colleagues supportive? So I used to be a barber, and I had to give up the job that I absolutely loved. Being a barber, I'd worked so hard to try and become over the years and years of going from job to job to job, finding no real satisfaction from them. And as soon as I became a barber, I absolutely loved it. And when I got hit with the diagnosis of motor neuron disease, I had to unfortunately give it up. But when I was there and I told my colleagues and the people that I worked with in the barbershop, I could not have asked for more support. And they are still today, I think over 2 years on now since I have left that job, they are still massively supportive. I get the odd cheeky haircut now and then. They've even supported me in a fundraiser that I did last year with my family, where we did a Christmas fair and raised over £6,000 for the Motor Neuron Disease Association, where they donated a AFC Bournemouth football shirt, and my ex-manager, or one of the owners of the chain of barbershops I worked in, got it all signed for me, and we had it framed and everything, and we raised £750 in an auction on the Christmas fair. And it's that sort of support that I've never experienced really from all the jobs that I've had in the past, and I couldn't thank them enough. And one day I will be back cutting hair, believe you me. Have you explained your MND to your kids, and if so, how has it affected them? So me and my wife had a discussion when I was diagnosed, and we also had a chat with the local occupational therapist in knowing when to tell my children. Now, I have 3 children aged 9, 6 and 3. I had to think about that then. 9, 6 and 3. So my eldest is probably the only one that sort of understands what I'm going through. At the moment, all they know is that Daddy has bad arms, and there's certain things that I can no longer do with them. And they are adapting, and they understand, what that entails. But to tell them the extent of what motor neuron disease will become, I think is too much of a burden for them to deal with at the age that they are. When we feel the time is right, we will tell them in a bit more detail. And I think that's why I'm so grateful that my condition is relatively slow progressing, where I can adapt to a new way of life living with this condition to start with, but B, I can show my children that and B, my children can adapt slowly with me as well. Now, I know the Motor Neuron Disease Association has a lot of information that you can download from their website, which will explain it in sort of children's language, and that will be really helpful when and if the time comes to tell them a bit more about what motor neuron disease. But at the moment, all they know is that I have bad arms, and when they want me to do certain things and I can't, I just tell them. I'm honest with them, and I'll just tell them that I can't do that because of my arms, which is frustrating in itself. Let's not go down that road again. But yeah, I'll tell them when the time is right, and when they're maybe a little bit older. I just don't want them to have that burden hanging over them, knowing what motor neuron disease will and is doing to their dad. If you would like to ask me any questions that I can try and answer on next week's video, please feel free to put them down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Mind over matter, mind over MND. We do this together. Join hands with me. I wish that we never met. Paths get crossed and you're on to the next. You make it so hard to forget. You take so much, not an ounce of regret.